What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. And here we are. Oh no, I got this wrinkled at the bottom. That upsets me. How'd that happen? Okay, sorry. You can go to my newsletter, which will be down in the description below. Sign up and get a free graphic novel. Never miss a video, all that stuff. And man, I'm bummed with myself. This is my own mishandling of this that caused me to wrinkle the bottom of this print. But this is Ever by Terry Moore. This is his new graphic novel, which just came in yesterday for me. I know it's still shipping out to some people as of the recording of this video. And he, through his online store, had an exclusive hardcover version. The softcover version, which is going to be a little less expensive, will be in comic shops, I believe, shortly. So make sure to check this out when you get there. I'll try to put the link into the description because I know he's got a few hardcovers left and those sell out. So you might want to get in on that before they do. All right. You can see it's a hardcover. What's interesting is they actually included one of those ribbon bookmark things in it, which I really appreciate. This one, it probably didn't need it as much. I like it in the longer books a lot better. This is 72 pages, so it was very easy to read this in one sitting. But if you can't, it's always handy to have this little bookmark here. I think this is a classy addition to books. It came with a print when you get this this hardcover version, which I've ruined my print. Sad. Beautiful art as always. You know, part of the reason I love Terry Moore. And this beautiful cover here. So the concept here is basically there's a girl and she's being chased by demons. She's part of some prophecy where she might be part of Armageddon or something like that. And she has to, fight back, is what the main description of this was. And when I read that, I was like, this is kind of very similar to the plot of Rachel Rising, because there's a lot of that implied in there. And if you haven't read Rachel Rising, that's my favorite comic book of all time. You should really go get that. But this is interesting, and I was like, how is he going to do this that differs from Rachel Rising? And I was very surprised by what I found. There are going to be some spoilers in this because I'm going to go through this. So if you don't want to get spoiled, don't turn this off now. But if you don't mind it, I'll try to be as nice as possible. Now, I am a little bummed about this book, and it's not because of the contents of the book, but it's the construction of the book. I have every Terry Moore hardcover except for Echo, so please, Terry, if you watch this, reprint Echo. I can't deal with it as a completionist here. But this has much thinner paper than his other works, and it really comes across here. And it's unfortunately, it does actually hurt the experience of the book a little bit. I don't know if you can see it via the camera, but yeah, you can. Perfect. But it actually, the way this thin paper works, it caused some wrinkling in the center of the pages, kind of at the front and the back of the book. It's a little better towards the middle of it. Once you're in the middle, there's, I guess it's still there in the middle. At least I didn't notice it as much in the middle. Yeah, it is. All right. But the paper is thin enough that it caused a problem there. So it bugged me at the beginning of the book when I started reading it because of that. A little sad. All right. So it starts out with a quote. Terry Moore loves to put quotes at the beginning of his works like this. So let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of that was his man, whoa man, and the number is 666. And he explains this in the book Revelation 3:18. All right. So you get some. Terry Moore's art is Terry Moore's art. So I love it because it just feels. It's got that nice balance between cartoon and real person. So you get a lot of very expressiveness. You get a pained gal here who's feeling very alone, and she's just hanging out. She's feeling like she's being stalked at first. There's a couple people who are looking at her. And by the way, I should notice this. This is, I believe, the image. I don't know if it actually is or if it just happens to look like him, of a guy named Salvatore, who runs an omnibus group on Facebook, and he's a big time omnibus collector, and he I saw his book. He actually got his signed by Terry Moore, so I tend to think that it was intentional that he was put in here as the book. If that's the case, that's really cool. All right, but there's a couple people looking like they're stalking this girl Ever, which hence the cover Ever. Everly is her actual name. And some weird events start to happen around her. It's very like very quick, like stuff that'll make your shoulders tense because of what's happening. And so someone dies as she sees this, and someone claims to rescue her. You get these cool shadows of dragons in the background that are like seeming like they're going to engulf her, but they're just a shadow on the wall. Very neat stuff. And Terry Moore always draws like some nice like rainy or snowy scenes like this. He does this very well. And that's got to be annoying to draw because there's so many little lines involved in. Look at just the way that this dragon's done with all the little white spots in there. There's just so many little lines that need to be done. He really puts a lot of care into his work, and I appreciate that on the art level. And she, of course, she's a pretty lady. He always draws the prettiest ladies, but she's got different expressions throughout each panel. It's not like a lot of artists. A lot of artists do panel sequences like this, and it's just the same expression. Maybe she tilts her head, but it's the same expression, same expression. You notice he's very careful about doing very different expressions as her feelings progress, and also zooming in, because again, a lot of artists would just keep it exactly the same because I think it's easier just kind of copy paste that look there. But he makes sure it's different all the way through, and that's again why I like his art so much. All right. So there's this like demon guy, and this happens a couple times in the book. She gets struck by lightning, crazy, and he brings her to Kansas, which is kind of a Wizard of Oz reference. She's no longer, she's transported and no longer in her realm. She's in Oz now, but it's Kansas, so it's kind of a reversal of that. Again, just some neat art here. You see this like it's just a representation of a little farm, and it's just a couple lines, and you see little footsteps going across this. But like, look what you can do with just a few dots to like create the perception of something going on in comic art. This is just, this is the type of stuff Alex Toth did that like you wouldn't think like, okay, this is not like an extremely detailed, realistic drawing or anything like that, but it communicates something so big. Look at the panel above it. It's just dots, but it communicates the field, communicates the area around the house where it's kind of mowed. And you got a little fence there to kind of show the highlight of it. Just really neat stuff. All right. So he explains to her that, she's not who she thinks she is, and that she's basically been caught in this like Groundhog's Day over and over and over again for all eternity. And ever since like Babylon, I guess. And she's caught the day before her 18th birthday, because on her 18th birthday, she triggers Armageddon or something like that. And so she's kind of learning what this is, and apparently he's explained this to her before in some ways, but she always goes back to reliving her one day here. And now he's trying to explain it more fully as they are getting chased by this demon that's going to bring about the end of the world. Pretty stuff. Okay, I'm not going to show every page because you should buy this. But he then takes her to the Garden of Eden in some area. And this is the cool part. I mentioned about Rachel Rising at the beginning. So if you've read Rachel Rising, this actually ties into the way that Terry sort of embellished the story of creation to add in Lilith and Rachel at the beginning of creation. And it turns out that Ever is a part of this and is related to all of that. And so I'm going to leave it at that for the spoiler, because that's enough. I think that if you like Rachel Rising, you should probably get this because it adds to it. And I think that was a very cool thing. So this does relate to that, and so it doesn't feel like a copy of the story anymore, because it is now a part of that story, which is pretty neat. So I'll leave the rest of the background of that as it is. There's a lot of exposition in here, and I'd say like once it gets past that initial part where she's in Kansas or whatever, it's a lot of talking back and forth as he kind of explains the background of everything that's going on. Now, I don't know. It slows down the pace a little bit. There's enough imagery in there that I think it's interesting, but it does slow down the pace. So I should note that. And then we can see that there's all these demons kind of waiting on what's going on. And it turns out there's a second guy, and he's from back in the subway too, and he explains actually more of the reality of what's going on that contradicts the other guy a little bit. So you're starting to wonder, okay, what's actually true and what's she getting into here? Now, I'm expecting her at this point to have to fight and win and do something. And this is where I'm going to have a little criticism of this book that I don't generally have, like for Rachel Rising or whatnot, is that everybody kind of tells her what to do. She kind of just goes. She ends up in this guy Jamal's apartment who's there to, quote, protect her. And then when she goes to sleep, she just gets visited by this demon who then kind of sucks her into Demon World. Very beautiful visuals on this Demon World stuff. Absolutely cool looking stuff. But Ever here doesn't really have any agency and doesn't really drive the plot. She kind of just exists, and then everything kind of just happens to her all around her. And that's my criticism here. I was expecting some kind of maybe fight or actual fight against the demons. Look at all the cool demons in the background. Again, the art just like steps it up good because of the way it was set up. That she'd actually be able to do something to change things. But again, she just gets struck with lightning, and it just kind of ends, and it becomes her 18th birthday, and she meets with Jamal again, and it just kind of ends. So it's interesting. Like the character really doesn't do anything on that front, and so you get the background. So you learn the background of what's going on. If you've read Rachel Rising again, that gives you a very nice insight as to everything that's going on. That feels really good. And so it's a nice, I'd say, character vignette addition to that universe. But on its own as a story, because she doesn't maybe accomplish anything, doesn't seem to go through any changes other than learning who she is with her forgotten memories, which also happened to Rachel in Rachel Rising. It just doesn't feel like a complete story. I feel like this is a chapter 1 or a first trade paperback in a story that's longer, and there's something she needs to accomplish and do and change in order to really complete her story. So I don't know if he intends on going forward any further with this. This was just solicited as a graphic novel, but it just kind of ends right there, and it just didn't feel like it really had a complete story to it. So that's where I'm at with it. I mean, the art's just fantastic. You saw the imagery in there. Cool premise, cool background stuff. Just wanted that little extra from the story there that didn't end up being there. So I will give this an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely worth the read. Like I said, especially if you've read Rachel Rising. And I look forward. I hope there's a second volume and maybe a third volume, because if this is Act 1 and there's an Act 2 and then there's an Act 3 to really complete everything, this would work very well as an Act 1. All right, hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys soon.